Is this thing on? Hello? Hello? Whatever. We're live. What is up, guys? It's Alex Johnson here, the founder and lead analyst at yardsperfantasy.com. Welcome into the 124th episode of the Feed Me Fantasy podcast. Let's eat. Today we are talking ads, drops, buys, and sells for week 2 fantasy football. Now, with these ads and drops, if you want to talk a little bit deeper on them, you want fab guidance. I know some of you have already had your waiver wires run. Most of you probably already have at this point. But if you want to get that information prior to this live show on Wednesdays, on Tuesday nights, I actually post my fab guidance. I'll rank the players in order of preference of who I want and who I'm targeting off the waiver wire, and how much I think you should spend on your fab budget on getting these guys. So you can find that at patreon.com/yardsperfantasy and support us on Patreon. Get that fab guidance, get that extra content, the early content, bonus content, exclusive content. We have some of our databases. We let you access those on our Patreons. That's patreon.com/yardsperfantasy. It helps us support the brand. It supports the brand. We have some tools that we want to build out in the future that'll help fund those, help us make those tools so you can become better fantasy gamers. It keeps things running at the brand, helps us compensate our hardworking analysts, but you can also support us using our promo code on Underdog Fantasy. That's promo code YARDSPER, all one word, YARDSPER. And it also helps support yourself by getting that $100 deposit match on Underdog Fantasy. Play there. You can draft a brand new team every single week on Underdog. You can play their pick'em prop contests, and you support us, support yourself. Use that promo code Underdog Fantasy, promo code YARDSPER. But anyway, let's talk ads, drops, buys, and sells. I know most of you have already had your waiver wires run at this point, so some of these guys we'll just touch on briefly. Others we won't even talk about. You already know about this first guy. It's add Jeff Wilson. But I also want you to add Jordan Mason and Tyrion Davis-Price in deeper leagues. Wilson was the only 49ers running back to take an offensive snap after Elijah Mitchell departed with a knee injury in week 1. He didn't perform particularly well, but we have to remember the field conditions were atrocious. The usage was encouraging, though, and that's what we're buying. Elijah Mitchell is expected to miss about 2 months, and Wilson projects as the top choice to take over that role, at least in the short term. He does have to deal with Deebo Samuel, of course. They just signed Marlon Mack. Jordan Mason and Tyrion Davis-Price are both worth bench stashes as well. Between those two, TDP would be my priority. Let's drop a guy that I really liked this summer, at least early on. It was Jalen Tolbert. He was one of my favorite late round wide receivers to draft most of the draft season. But the lack of any positive training camp news kind of cooled my takes on him a bit by the time we got to the last couple of weeks of August. And then he starts the year as a healthy scratch, while the Cowboys offense looked atrocious on Sunday night. And now even if he cracks the lineup, he'll be without quarterback Dak Prescott for some time. So dropping Jalen Tolbert's a pretty easy decision at this point. I also want you to add, and this guy may not be quite as obvious as Jeff Wilson. He's still available on a lot of waiver wires. It's Jaylen Warren. Like with Jeff Wilson in San Francisco, the rookie was the only Steelers running back to see the field after Najee Harris left with a foot injury. Harris has already said he's fine and he expects to play in week 2 against the Patriots, But Warren is worth an ad just in case. And this is probably why he's still available in a lot of leagues. One, a lot of people still don't know the name because he's a rookie, undrafted, so forth. But Najee Harris came out and said he's fine. But remember, Najee Harris dealt with a Lisfranc injury throughout training camp. And now he's already got a foot issue that he's dealing with. It's probably related. It's probably the same thing. In week 1 already, it's pretty good chance he misses some time at some point. And if that happens, Jaylen Warren looks like he's going to get the first crack at the RB1 job. And we know Mike Tomlin, when he has a starting running back, he leans on that guy. And that guy really, really barely comes off the field. So he's going to get a ton of carries, check downs. He's going to get that almost full Najee Harris, role, that workload, if he ever gets the opportunity to jump into that job. Let's talk some trades. How about we go out and buy Saquon Barkley? Yes, it's okay to buy high, guys. It's okay to buy high. Saquon Barkley came out looking like the guy we knew from a few years ago. Healthy, fast, explosive. Barkley's one of the most dominant running backs in the league when he has his health. And not only did he rip off long runs, he led all running backs for the week with a 33% target share. Whoever rosters him in your league may still be a little bit worried and skeptical about him getting injured. But we don't play scared. We do not play scared here. If you play scared, you play safe. This is not the show for you. We play to win. Barkley is looking like a potential league winner already. Go get him before he repeats this performance and the cost only goes up. Reminder, when you are making these deals, be sure to utilize our trade calculator, yardsperfantasy.com. It's the most customizable and accurate calculator for redraft leagues on the market. Adjust the settings for your league size, scoring, and you're going to get the best results out there. Find that on the Yards Per Fantasy app or at the yardsperfantasy.com/trade-calculator. Let's head back to the waiver wire a little bit and let's look at Gerald Everett. We figured if Gerald Everett could establish himself in this offense, he'd be a steal at ADP. And he got off to a solid start with a 12% target share, catching 3 of his 4 targets for 54 yards and a touchdown in week 1. He'll be more of a boomer bust play, but if you're in need of a streamer at the position, it's hard to find a better option than a playmaking red zone weapon in the Justin Herbert offense. Gerald Everett will be particularly appealing this week with Keenan Allen missing time, and particularly in future weeks if Allen stays out. So go grab Gerald Everett, stream him for week 2 against the Chiefs. Great matchup there. Shootout game, high scoring, red zone opportunities. It's going to be there. So I do see the questions in the TikTok chat. We're going to finish the show and then we'll get to your questions. We'll do some bonus questions at the end of the show for the TikTok audience. And hey, YouTube, if you got any questions, throw them out there. We'll get to you too. But sticking with that Thursday night football game, sticking with the Chargers, sticking with the Keenan Allen injury, I also want you to go and add Josh Palmer. I talked about Josh Palmer all summer long. Not only did I love the standalone value as the wide receiver 3 in an explosive offense, but I love the upside of becoming the wide receiver 2 if either Mike Williams or Keenan Allen experience an injury. And as it turns out, Allen is already battling that hamstring issue coming out of week 1. And while DeAndre Carter looked good in his opportunities on Sunday, Palmer was well ahead of that journeyman receiver. Palmer played 75% of the snaps to Carter's 37%. And their route participation discrepancy was pretty much the same. So go add Josh Palmer. I also want you to go a little bit deeper. I want you to add Kyle Phillips, the wide receiver for the Titans. This rookie, he led all Titans receivers with a 27% target share. That's impressive. First game in the NFL. Even with that sketchy receiving core that they've got there. He also hauled in the catch that set up what would have been the game-winning field goal had Randy Bullock, not missed from 47 yards. But I digress. Phillips finished the game with 66 receiving yards. He came into the league as a polished route runner who projects as a slot receiver. He had taken that role by the horns and run with it already. He could become a steady wide receiver 4 in PPR scoring leagues. So go get Kyle Phillips. So let's go from the Titans to a guy who used to play for the Titans. And let's go back to the trade market. And I want you to buy A.J. Brown. Like I said with Saquon Barkley, it is perfectly okay to buy high. This is not a week 1 overreaction, but more like a week 1 confirmation of what we thought we were getting with the Jalen Hurts to Brown connection. Brown is one of the most talented wide receivers in the league. He's battled some injuries in recent seasons, but he looked as healthy as ever against the Lions. Brown was a target hog, finishing the week 2nd to only Devontae Adams in target share with 41% among all wide receivers across the league. And he turned that into 10 catches for 155 yards. We expect the Eagles to be more pass-friendly offense this season, and week 1 did not disappoint. And the fact that A.J. Brown did not reach the end zone in week 1 is actually going to help you acquire him because he didn't have that complete blow-up game where if he had scored a touchdown or 2 would have been. He played fantastic, 10 catches to 155 yards, massive target share. He did great. But if he had scored a touchdown, it might have been a lot harder for you to go out and buy him. So take advantage and go get him this week. So we're doing ads, we're doing drops. And one of the guys we're dropping, because if you're going to add guys, you got to drop some guys. And one of these guys is Mike Gesicki. We were well below consensus on Mike Gesicki in the yardsperfantasy.com draft kit throughout the summer. So if you were following our rankings in the draft kit, you probably don't have any Mike Gesicki. But if you do, it's time to drop him. It's time to drop him. We knew he wasn't a fit for what new head coach Mike McDaniel wants to do with his tight ends. And trade rumors in August only confirmed that. And then in week 1, Gesicki ran a route on just 43% of Tua's dropbacks. And he was targeted once, resulting in a 1-yard catch. He can be safely dropped for someone like Albert Okoye-Bonam, Irv Smith, Gerald Everett, like we talked about a few minutes ago, Hayden Hurst, Logan Thomas, Evan Ingram. I'd rather have all of those guys over Mike Gesicki at this point. So I also want you to sell Rashad Penny. That's right. I know he looked healthy and he looked explosive on Monday night, but let's take advantage of that and cash in. Why? Because this is still Geno Smith in the Seattle offense. And I understand they exceeded expectations and admittedly impressed a little bit in week 1. But do we really, let's take a minute to think about it. Do we really expect that to be the norm throughout the season? I mean, come on. It's still a bad offense with a questionable offensive line. And even in a surprising positive game script, which we didn't expect, and we don't expect that they're going to have a lot of those, Penny still only managed 12 rush attempts. If you were drafting him, weren't you drafting him because he's going to get all this volume? Pete Carroll wants to run the ball. And then in a game where they're leading throughout the whole fucking thing, he gets 12 carries. And that was without rookie second rounder Kenneth Walker. He was inactive. Walker's expected to be back soon, I think as early as this week, it sounds like. And that's only going to muddy the waters for Rashad Penny. I mean, you made a mistake by drafting him, let's admit it, but the universe has given you a mulligan. Don't squander it. Now, if you signed up for our text alert service at yardsperfantasy.com, you got our text Monday afternoon recommending that you take the under on Rashad Penny's 68.5 rushing yards on BetUS. And we nailed it. I think he ended up with 60 rushing yards. So we nailed the under. And I hope you took advantage and used promo code YARDSPER at BetUS to get your 125% deposit bonus and then smashed that under. And if you want to get text alerts like that from us, just shoot me a text right now. 833-221-5077. That's 833-221-5077. And we'll get you signed up for our free VIP text notifications. Back to the trade market and back to Thursday Night Football and the Chargers. I want you to buy Mike Williams. I loved Mike Williams coming into the season. Week 1 was a dud, but that doesn't change my projections for him. It really doesn't. He was on the field. He was running routes. It just wasn't his week for one reason or another. And now he's going to be the clear top dog with Keenan Allen expected to miss at least week 2. Chargers, Chiefs on Thursday night should be high scoring, which will open up red zone opportunities for this red zone monster. Buy him this week before he has that first explosion of the season. I also want you to buy Rashad Bateman. Devin Duvernay got the 2 touchdowns, but Bateman still had a solid day despite a heavy positive game script. And week 1 kind of feels like his floor. It's a great opportunity to go get him. So doing ads, drops, buys, sells, but what about guys that you should hold on to? Don't drop these guys. Don't sell these guys. And that brings me to San Francisco, to the 49ers, with Trey Lance and Brandon Ayuk. I mean, did you see the weather in that 49ers-Bears game? It was like legit monsoon conditions. There was literally like 6 inches of water on top of the field. It was a mess. And because of that, we're basically throwing that game out of all the San Francisco and Chicago players. Just forgive all of them. Forgive them all. Forget it. Pretend it didn't happen. That includes Trey Lance, who still somehow ran for 54 yards. We loved him coming into the season because of his rushing ability and his cannon arm. Nothing has changed about that. We also loved Brandon Ayuk because of his fit with Lance's skill set. Again, that hasn't changed. And in fact, Ayuk played on 98% of the snaps in week 1, and he ran a route on 100% of Lance's dropbacks. Everything's going to be okay, people. Everything is going to be okay. That's in San Francisco. Where it's not going to be okay is in Kansas City, where you should be selling Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Oh, man. Talk about the perfect sell high candidate. We actually liked Clyde Edwards-Helaire in week 1, believe it or not. He was in a couple of our lineups that we posted in the week 1 DFS and betting guide from Yards Per Fantasy. And if you want to receive that, get it for free in your inbox every Saturday morning, first thing. Just go to yardsperfantasy.com/bets and sign up. We knew game script and scoring opportunities would be in CH's favor this week in week 1, and it worked out great. It also worked out for anyone who drafted him in seasonal leagues because it opened up that trade window. He was out-targeted by Jerick McKinnon, and rookie Isaiah Pacheco looked good when he came in, albeit, in garbage time, but, he still looked great. McKinnon has the passing downs role on lockdown, and Pacheco is a candidate for increased playing time as the season goes along. After all, we've seen this CEH trap before. We've seen it before. He has a 2-touchdown game, and then he does nothing for 6 weeks. So, sell now while you can. But that's all the transactions. It's actually not all the transactions. We got a couple more. But let's take a few questions. Real quick because the chats are blowing up. We'll take 2 questions and we'll get back to the last few players that we're going to talk about that I'm recommending that you grab off the waiver wire. Let's take 2 from TikTok and we'll take 2 from YouTube. So let's go. Is Edmonds a viable RB2? I think he is. I think he is because he's going to get the passing downs work. He outsnapped Raheem Mostert pretty significantly in week 1. So he's getting carries, he's getting receptions, targets. It's going to be a decent offense, but not so good with their playing ahead. So he's going to have, third and longs. He's going to have negative game scripts. One more from TikTok. Let's see. Jacobs and Bateman for AJ Brown. Yes, I would do that. Trade Jacobs and Bateman and go get AJ Brown. Absolutely. So let's take one from YouTube real quick. Put it on the screen. This one says trade Michael Carter for Rashad Bateman. Absolutely. Absolutely. This is a split backfield with the Jets. Bateman, like I said, I think that's going to be his floor, what he did this past week. So go get Rashad Bateman. With the Jets backfield, it's not a great offense. Split backfield. Breece Hall is going to end up taking over eventually. Should I start Younghoe Koo or Greg Joseph this week? I don't know. I don't do kickers. I don't play the kicker game. Yeah, sorry. All right, let's do 2 more players that I want you to add. That's first is Zay Jones. I touted Zay Jones as a late round target all summer long, and here we are. Jones is coming off a 6-catch, 65-yard outing. He ran a route on 91% of Jacksonville's dropbacks. That was tied with Christian Kirk for the team lead. Jones also had a 21% target share and played 83% of the snaps. He's going to be a usable wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 moving forward. And the last player we're going to end up on is add DJ Chark. As expected, the Lions offense put up some points in week 1. And as expected, DJ Chark was a big part of that. And like I said with Zay Jones, Chark is a wide receiver I had circled as a late round target throughout the draft process. And he delivered by catching 4 passes for 52 yards and a touchdown. And he did that while playing 83% of the snaps, running a route on 92% of Jared Goff's dropbacks, and commanding a 22% target share. That's all so impressive. And Chark also finished 4th in the NFL among all players of all positions with 124 air yards, which accounted for 40.5% of the team share. These are all great indicators of future production. This was a great start to the season, but even bigger weeks are coming for DJ Chark and Zay Jones. But that's the show. That's the show. I'll be back live Sunday morning answering all of your start-sit questions. In the meantime, find my rankings, articles, and tools at yardsperfantasy.com. When you're making these trades, use our trade calculator at yardsperfantasy.com. Sign up for our DFS betting guide. Sign up to receive bonus text alerts. Support us on Patreon. Use our promo code YARDSPER with our partners at Underdog Fantasy, BetUS, Owner's Box, where you can play Super Flex DFS. That's honestly is my favorite thing to play on Owner's Box. You can play Super Flex DFS. Use that promo code YARDSPER to start playing over there as well. But that's all I got. That's all I got for today. We'll be back Sunday morning with the Start Shit Show to answer all of your start sit questions all the way up till kickoff. Thanks, guys.